Welcome to part 2 of my Seed series, the story enhancing device. Quick refresher, it's kind of part game, part creativity tool to help you write stories. And I totally recommend looking at part 1, otherwise you might be confused. Let's get on into it. In the previous video, we created identities for the characters in our story. But at the same point, also creates identities of the characters that are not in the story. So from the example that we created last time, you can see there are no robots and no aliens. So that means we probably are not writing a sci-fi story because robots and aliens aren't an element of the story. Although something like Snow Crash has lots of these elements, so I'm not saying you can't write a sci-fi story, it's just you're not going to have robots and aliens. So what do you do with all this? So the first thing you do is if you need a tertiary character, just some kind of extra character, just take all these cards. Remember, these are all cards, and shuffle them together, and then draw one. And that's the character that's for the scene. That's added onto what other characters you already have. We haven't gotten to the other characters yet. But you also can use this through a shuffling method to make your primary and secondary characters, the protagonist, the antagonist, and so forth. And real simple is you take each of these piles and you condense them into one pile each, so there's 4 individual piles. You shuffle each of those individual piles and you grab one and you start drawing out cards and you put 3 across. Take the next pile, shuffle it, put 2 below it, put 1 on top of one of the cards from above, shuffle the third pile, put 1 below it, and put 1 up and 1 up, and the last pile will shuffle and go 1, 1, 1 up. You'll see I just did that. What it does is give you 6 potentially primary characters. You're not going to use all of them, but this is a start. And if you don't like the results, feel free to swap them, as long as you try to stay within the same thematic elements. You've now identified the characters. In the example given, we have a sister who's a baker, an A sponsor who's a customer, a barista who's an investigator, a cousin who's the victim, presumably the murdered victim, an alcoholic murderer, and a drug-using brother. Each character has 2 primary identities for the purposes of story. We haven't defined antagonist yet, we haven't defined the protagonist yet. Just look at these as these are the characters that could be in the story. We don't know how they're related to each other yet, but this is what exists. What combination do you come up with? Let me know in the comments. Thanks.